There we are, right on time. I'm glad you're enjoying the music. I find it much better than just that dead air we had in the last few live streams. So yeah, good stuff. I can hear in the earpiece, so it must be okay. Let me know in the chat room. You can see and hear, and then we will jump right into it. Good to see my lovely wife has joined us in the chat room. Eileen is here, of course. Jody, R. Mac. Who else do we have here? And I think we've got a pretty good group watching in the background here tonight as well. All right, Eileen says thumbs up. Kathleen says Eileen. So you guys are communicating, and it looks like everybody's good. All right. Well, as advertised, we are going to pick up where we left off in our Thursday live stream, talking about Concordia and the Global Blockchain Business Council as it relates to Libra, the cryptocurrency. Also, I'm going to leave quite a bit of time, probably an hour, for questions this evening. I know that I've been receiving quite a few questions in the chat, or not in chat necessarily, but by emails. So if any one of you in the chat room would like to post a question, go ahead and make a note of those, and I'll let you know in about an hour's time that I'm ready to take them. You're pretty much on any topic. I mean, I'm not a know-it-all. I pontificate a lot, but I'm not a know-it-all. But I'm willing to listen to questions, to read questions, and see what I can do to provide you a reasonable answer. But as we said in the last live stream, or the last one concerning Libra, bottom line is, my headline, my punch line, is that I am convinced that the new cryptocurrency known as Libra will be the new global currency, and it will be the currency of the beast system. It will be the only form of currency accepted for buying and selling, and that global status will be post Mark of the Beast. In other words, the infrastructure is being built out. For several years now, I've been talking about blockchain and referring to it as the infrastructure of the beast system. And of course, this is from a Christian perspective. And the inducement, the enticement, the carrot on the stick to build out that infrastructure has been cryptocurrencies. Now we have a system that is so well in place, so well entrenched, that they are ready to launch the single cryptocurrency, which by default, all of the some 1,000 of them, the Bitcoins and the Ethereums of the world, will fall by the wayside. And I'll explain to you this evening why they are going to experience that sudden demise, if you will. Okay, so make a note. Okay, just to keep my train of thought there. And like the Bitcoin infrastructure having been built out, and it of course will continue, most all of the world's transactions are already heading in the direction of blockchain, quite a bit like Facebook, for example, who is the face, Mark Zuckerberg specifically, the face of the Libra cryptocurrency. But again, I will explain why he's not the primary player. He's amongst a group of 28 at this point of what are known as founding members. But 2 years ago, following the Cambridge Analytica privacy fiasco regarding Facebook users' information not remaining private and secure. I had said that within 30 to 60 days, I would expect to see Mark Zuckerberg announce, and this was 2 years ago, announce that they were going to migrate the private information of Facebook users over to the blockchain. 30 days after I said that, that's in fact what took place. So that's just one example of where mass migration, we might even call it the diaspora, okay? The diaspora of private information is heading to blockchain. We see this in healthcare with medical records. This is already happening in the banking sector. Your neighborhood physical bank will go away. In fact, the major impact of Libra cryptocurrency will be a paradigm shift for all financial transactions, be they in traditional banks, JP Morgan private banks, for example, which is one of the partners. When we look at hedge fund managers, hedge fund companies, even venture capital, they need to watch out, but certainly the hedge funds and the tried and true stockbrokers of stocks and commodities, brokers of stocks and commodities, and currency exchanges, of course. Currency exchanges are going to be like the buggy whips when the automobile came in and changed the paradigm on transportation. There will be no currency exchange. There will be no investing in the fluctuation of the currency markets of the world. That'll be a thing of the past. And as Scripture tells us, people will be casting their gold into the streets because it'll be worthless. Gold and silver, precious metals exchange, buggy whips, they'll be gone. But again, this is all post-Mark of the Beast. But the infrastructure is what we've been presenting for a couple of years about blockchain, and then I've just begun to talk about Libra and the building out of the infrastructure of the specific cryptocurrency for the blockchain system itself. Again, relegating all previous cryptocurrencies, which were leveraged to build out the computer system, the infrastructure of blockchain itself, those being displaced, being replaced by Libra, and this is happening quickly. Now, Mark Zuckerberg last week testified before Congress, before the House of Representatives here in the United States, and stated that their plan, and this is reflected in Facebook's white paper, their plan for the startup of the trading of sovereign currencies for Libra coins will begin in the first half, and that's as specific as they have been so far, the first half of next year. Therefore, predating in this timeline going up to the first half of next year, predating that event of the acceptance of currencies in exchange for Libras, possibly we could see the Mark of the Beast scenario play out. However, I'll couch that statement by saying that with any new startup, there always are teething issues. There are always bugs in the system. Things have to be worked out. So it may be later in the year, later in 2020. It might even take as long as a year for the system itself to solidify, to kind of calm down, work out all the problems. So let's give it at least a year. Let's go to first half of 2021. But in the meantime, not only the system issues have to be addressed, because the system Unlike Bitcoin, which is only able to handle 7 transactions a second, or Ethereum that can handle 15 transactions per second, Libra will be, at least that's their initial goal. It'll probably increase over time, but their initial benchmark goal is to open trading exchanges for Libras, the buying and selling of Libras, at a rate of 1,000 transactions per second, quite a bit faster. So of course there will be teething problems, as I said. But during this period of sorting out the hardware and software will be the marketing campaign, because it doesn't do any good to have the system built if no one's going to participate. So how do you get people to participate? Well, first you need to sell this to the general public. There will be early adopters. There will be people that are already in the cryptocurrency world, familiar with it, and will early on jump right in to Libra. But then there's, this bell curve. There's the 10% early adopters, and then it starts to rise up the bell curve in terms of it becoming more mainstream, more acceptable, with everybody jumping on the bandwagon. Okay? This is typical product development, marketing, advertising, the bell curve of early adopters and then going to mainstream. And then the cycle repeats on the backside of the bell curve into obsolescence and then release of a new generation device, like we see with iPhones, etc. So the point here is that there needs to be a tremendous marketing and advertising campaign and inducements and enticements, not only for the individual person to adopt this currency, this global currency, but also merchants. You have to have the buying and selling taking place. So the businesses, the merchants, have to buy into it as well. They have to be willing to take for their goods and services this new cryptocurrency. Their biggest concern, and it's a concern of individuals, especially those that are investing, and we see this right now with the existing cryptocurrencies, we see the volatility of these cryptocurrencies, and speculation drives the market, drives the investment. So again, these are the early adopters. These are people who have money to risk. They don't mind putting up money that they can hopefully well afford to lose if that's the situation. That's the basic premise when you're investing in the stock market, commodities and currency exchanges and metals market. Only invest, so to speak, only risk that which you can easily afford to lose should that happen. Okay? Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who violate that basic premise. But let's stay on track. The volatility issue is what is killing the present cryptocurrency market. The volatility is what is keeping in this bell curve, is keeping it in that 10% early adopter phase, and it's not moving mainstream. In fact, it's been retracting. It's been losing ground in terms of popularity, in terms of adoption. And this holds true even for the merchants, for the business sector, because imagine if you were providing a service or selling a good or a commodity and you accepted a Bitcoin, for example, and today it was worth, let's just use $1 of $10, a figure of $10. Let's say you allow someone to buy $10 worth of something. So we're at McDonald's and they take a cryptocurrency, they take a Bitcoin in exchange for a hamburger, a milkshake, and some French fries for $10. Well, they're happy with it, except the next day when the market opens, Bitcoin's only worth $8. Well, they just lost $2 on that transaction. So stability is the hallmark of Libra, the stability of it. So I'm going to make another note of that, and I'll explain that in just a moment. because without stability, you do not have adoption. I have a lot to cover, so I'm just kind of making notes as I go here. The November issue of Entangled magazine is, as you saw while I was playing the music, is dedicated to Libra. I want to thank Doug Diamond. I don't know if he's in the chat room tonight. I haven't seen him, but he'll hear this later if he isn't. Again, the marvelous artistic talent, the Adobe Photoshop guru that Doug Diamond is at Diamond Digital Media, again has graced us with a beautiful piece of artwork for the cover of the November issue of Entangled magazine. This is entitled Libra, One World Currency. It has the name Concordia below the coin and also the logo for the Libra group, which is the group that is really putting together the Libra currency. It's also called the Libra Association within this group. But they are, and why they're placed subordinate to in the image here, why the Libra group is below Concordia, is because Concordia, I mentioned in the previous live stream about this topic, has displaced the window dressing organizations, as I refer to them now, of such groups as the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, people like that. And even, dare I say, I didn't say this in the last live stream, but dare I say they may in fact displace the United Nations themselves. So as a subset to Concordia, and we will dive into their website, I sent you many, many links prior to the live stream for your future reference. I didn't expect you to look through all those in the short time we had before the live stream began, but you can certainly reference back to those at your leisure and examine the individual websites for Concordia and Libra Group and the Libra Association and the things that we'll get into briefly tonight. But all those links and the information is contained in the November issue of Entangled magazine. Now, going back to the coin front and center on this beautiful piece of artwork that Doug provided for us, that is not in fact a coin. That is not a Libra coin. This is something that Doug and I compiled in our collaboration. I gave him the components and he put this together into a coin, and it's just, I know that there are companies that provide the opportunity. I'll toss this out to you for a reaction. There are companies out there that provide challenge coins, they're called. And that's not a negative. It's called a challenge coin. It's kind of like a secret handshake. It's kind of like a greeting, a proof of membership. That if you say you are a member of a group, the person you're speaking to can say, show me your proof, show me your coin, and you withdraw from your pocket a challenge coin, and it shows that you are in fact a member of the group, because only sworn members of a group, this is the backstory to it, only sworn members or initiated members, whatever, are given a coin as their way of verification, of vetting themselves to someone who is asking for proof of their membership. So I was thinking this coin is just so appropriate. I thought maybe I would enlist the services of one of these companies that really at a very low cost will literally mint coins. Now you can't use them obviously in trade, but they're challenge coins. So let me know in the chat room, let me know by way of email if that's an idea that kind of sparks an interest, and if they were available, I don't know exactly how much, but maybe they were $10 a piece. If you wanted something like that, I mean, I would do it at cost. Absolutely at cost, and there would be shipping costs involved in this also. But let's take it apart a little bit. So the script on there is the Black Horse of Famine. Hard to read, I'm sure, for you. Black Horse of Famine, referring to Revelation. And it's the black horse that you're seeing there, and the rider on the black horse is essentially a skeleton depicting famine, and he's holding the balance scales. Now, there are several historical references or interpretations to the scales that I provide to you in the Entangled magazine. So I refer you to that. I don't want to get too far off track here this evening. I'll let the magazine speak for itself. But there are 3 different forms of scales that I've outlined in the article for you. But notice the Libra group at the bottom, their logo. Again, I decipher that, take it apart, tell you who the players are, what the historical references are to the imagery here. But each of those female figures has a balance scale in her hand. And of course, Libra, the most obvious reference beyond what we're showing here on the coin regarding the 3rd seal, is in astrology the balance scales of the zodiac sign, which is October, of Libra. So, very appropriate that they have Mark Zuckerberg speaking about Libra before Congress. It's all planned out that way. There are no coincidences. Okay? All right, so let's move along to our scriptures. Kind of a long opening monologue. Come on. Software can be a little slow sometimes. I used these in the last live stream, but I wanted to have some continuity and carry them over into this. Hosea 12:7. A merchant loves to defraud with dishonest scales in his hands. And Proverbs 11. Dishonest scales are an abomination to the Lord, but an accurate weight is his delight. Let's see if I had the rest of that. Yeah, it was Proverbs 11, verse 1. Scales are replete in the historical record, in the scriptures, in the logos. And that is my segue to George Logothetis. Again, I provide a historical background in the magazine about the name Logothetis, and it's fascinating, if I do say so myself. Now, I will say this right up front. In the magazine, I provide links to Wikipedia. Ordinarily, when I provide you information and I provide links to source information in the magazine, the links take you to professional articles, white papers, peer-reviewed papers, journals, scientific articles. Especially last month, the whole magazine was that way. What Kathleen and I decided this month was that, and I'll kind of put it this way, we decided to play it safe by using very obvious reference material, very public information, which of course Wikipedia is. Now, I hope you don't mind my just using Wikipedia. I know that there are some people who question the veracity, the accuracy of Wikipedia, but for the sake of very simple explanations, very open, wide open, very transparent information that anybody can find, obviously. I chose to use Wikipedia heavily this month. Okay? I think it's kind of a refreshing step away from the highly technical jargon that I typically put in the magazine, and just probably information that 90% of the subscribers find too technical and perhaps tedious to read because of that. And I understand that, and I've kind of explained in the past that the reason that I do lean so heavily on the highly technical in the magazine is because I do know that there are a number of people in the scientific community, in the research community, who want to see the research that I'm reading, that I'm sourcing, from which I'm drawing my conclusions, and especially my conclusions from a Christian perspective that is folded in to and with the scientific. Therefore, those magazines have been pretty heavy to read, to get through, and they average about 100 pages. This magazine's going to be considerably shorter, and that's on purpose. I want to give you guys a break, okay? I don't want to overload you, and I'm using very basic information to explain Libra. It does not need to be overly complicated, and it isn't necessary that I go into the technical details of the computer server farms and the CPUs that are specifically designed for mining cryptocurrencies as they exist today. Again, because a lot of that is going to go away. So it really doesn't serve the purpose to talk about the existing hardware and software systems. I mean, again, I could sort of pontificate scientifically and put it all in there, but I think it's pretty much useless because it's all buggy whip technology. It's all going away. The same type of CPUs, computer processing units, the same sort of towers, the same type of servers in the server racks in the server farms will be used for Libra. They'll be faster, they'll be larger. Again, because the transactions will be initially at least 1,000 per second with Libra, as opposed to 7 for Bitcoin and 15 for Ethereum. Therefore, it's a very similar system to describe. And the best way to think about it is just server farms. Okay, these are hard drives designed specifically for mining cryptocurrency. When I say mining, it is simply the transaction. Initially, it would be an exchange of sovereign currencies like the US dollar, the British pound, the euro, etc., the yuan, the lira that used to be around, if you will, in exchange for the Libra. But then the buying and selling of Libras. It won't be a speculation, however. Remember, the hallmark, the benchmark, the foundation that sets Libra apart is not just the speed of transactions, but it's the non-volatility, in other words, the stability of the cryptocurrency. So the speculators, the 10% early adopters in the bell curve, they're going away like the buggy whip system of their cryptocurrencies. They will not be speculating on Libra. Okay? Because again, if we step back to the merchants, the businessmen, they want to see stability in the currency so that it is worth the same tomorrow or very close to it, same tomorrow as it was when their transaction took place in the selling of goods and services. Okay, so volatility is one of the primary things that will be eliminated from this new global currency. Now that's shocking. That's a paradigm change. That's shocking to people listening to this who are speculators today in cryptocurrencies. And I have seen in YouTube land and in news feeds that I get self-professing Christians who for now at least 2 years, maybe more, have been encouraging people to invest in cryptocurrencies. It's unfortunate that those individuals that were promoting and still promote cryptocurrencies to their fellow Christians and non-Christians as well haven't listened to what I've been saying about cryptocurrencies for years now, that it's building out the infrastructure of the beast system. So now, the old saying in the farm, the chickens are coming home to roost. The paradigm's going to change. The rug's going to get pulled right out from under them, whatever you want to use. They can convert their cryptocurrencies to Libra, but first they have to convert them to dollars or some other existing sovereign currency. Once they've converted Bitcoin, Ethereum out into the 1,000 different ones, back into an acceptable currency, acceptable by the Libra Association, the founding members of which there are 28, by their rules, they will accept currencies, not other forms of cryptocurrencies. Again, big paradigm change. People should be listening. So, if any of you are in cryptocurrencies, and you shouldn't be, obviously, from my perspective, but if you are, get out of them, get back into dollars or whatever local currency you operate with, because I know we talk to people all over the world in these live streams. Okay? Because very soon, those cryptocurrencies are going to be worth zero. No, that's not an Illuminati sign. No, that is not a Donald Trump hand signal. I don't want to hear about it. I'm just kidding. You can say whatever you want. Again, point is, cryptocurrencies are fiat. They're not based on any basket of currencies. They're not based on hard assets. They're not backed by FDIC here in the United States. If you own cryptocurrencies, it doesn't matter what value they are today, get out. You might as well convert them into a local currency. Then use that to go out and buy things that are useful for you and your family. And you can determine the definition of useful. Okay? Now, you'll note that I did not advise you to hold those local currencies until the first half of next year in anticipation of the opening of the sale of Libra cryptocurrency. I didn't say do that, did I? I'm not advising doing that. Because all you're doing is investing in the beast system. You've already done that by participating with the infrastructure. But you're putting your money into literally the beast system, one world, global currency. Why participate in that? It's the beast system. You should be completely out of it. So don't think about reinvesting in Libra. Now, as they always say on programs like this, I am not a financial advisor. I don't have a license from the Securities and Exchange Commission here in the United States. I'm just telling you from a biblical perspective, get out. And then don't participate. And those of you that may be listening to me who have been advising people, especially in the Christian sector, to buy cryptocurrencies, you better pray for forgiveness from the Lord, number one. And number two, you do the 180. Patches 180. Start advising people after apologizing to them. Start advising them as to what I just stated and what I'm advising, and that is get out. Now, it may be next year that the mark of the beast scenario plays out. It may be the following year. I'm not here to set a firm timeline. I'm not dogmatic about timelines. We can certainly be a watchman on the wall, and we can see the signs on the handwriting on the wall. But I'm not here to set timelines. But it is absolutely clear, and I am fully convinced, and I am in fact dogmatic, that Libra is slated to be the one world global currency of the beast system. So, in the mark of the beast scenario, people through free will make a free will decision to take the mark of the beast. There will be various forms of enticement and inducement and encouragement for people to accept the mark of the beast. One of which I've presented in the past, I'll repeat it again. It's in this fiat currency, cryptocurrency process. People holding Libra will perceive a certain amount of value to that Libra, whatever that value is. And again, it's not going to be volatile. So we're not talking about speculation with increase or decrease in valuation, but there will be a certain value to their holdings in Libra. They will be converting assets to Libra. Therefore, there's a perceived wealth within their account in that blockchain distributed ledger system. Okay? And they will want access to it, just like you and I want access to our checking accounts and our savings accounts. If you have retirement accounts, you want access to those things. Well, the scenario that I offer is pretty obvious. If you want access to your wealth, you will need to take the mark of the beast. If you don't have the mark of the beast, you will not be able to buy or sell. You and I already know all this. But you see how it's interlocking now? You see how the infrastructure being built in pieces and components, the fragmentation is coming together, the jigsaw puzzle pieces are nicely, neatly fitting in together, and from the jigsaw puzzle we see from 40,000 feet on patch air the picture that is forming. And it is not hard for you and I, because we have the discernment of the Holy Spirit. It's not hard for us to see this, and yet most of the world is completely blind, deaf, and dumb to everything that I'm sharing with you tonight. And those that are building out Libra and building out blockchain are especially blind, deaf, and dumb. If you will, they have scales over their eyes. Are they the balance scales of Libra? Of the black horse? Of famine? You see, sometimes when we look at the words we've seen for years in Scripture, like the scales over their eyes, sometimes it takes on new meaning. Scripture's phenomenal. It's so deep. And I don't even begin to try to say that I have really gone that deep myself, because I am learning along with you, and you guys are teaching me and teaching Kathleen. It's an awful lot to learn. I think when we go to be with the Lord, all of that's going to be revealed. The full depth and the full meaning and the full context of Scripture is going to be revealed to us, and that's going to be just awe-inspiring. but it is fun. And I find it amusing when we find these new things in Scripture. We go, wow, I've been reading that for years. I had no idea. It's all part of learning. It's those wonderful epiphanies that occur. And from experiencing epiphanies in your life, that those realizations, those understandings become part of you. They become your own. You own those. And therefore, they become your own teaching moments that you pass on to other people. Okay? So, anyway, let's talk about the stability. I want to put up well, I won't put up another picture. Let's talk about stability, because I said that there will not be any speculation. Let's talk about the Libra Association. Libra Association is made up, as I said, of 28 initial members. Their goal is to reach a membership of about 100 members in the association. Each member is required to meet certain specifications, and I've outlined those in the magazine. But some of the easy touch points, the bullet points, they have to have $10 million cash money, not a cryptocurrency. They have to have $10 million in the bank, US dollars. That's the only accepted currency right now, are US dollars, which is the reserve currency. It's the so-called petrodollar that China has threatened to move away from. Russia has all but moved away now, in the last 2 weeks, all but moved away from the US dollar for the purchase of gas and oil. The petrodollar Russia doesn't recognize the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world right now. And as a sidebar to that, I think I sent you an article a few days ago that Russia is going to test disconnecting from the World Wide Web, essentially their own intranet within Russia itself, its own intranet, its own internet, not connected to the World Wide Web, to the world internet, but their own intranet. Okay? Anyway, that's a sidebar. I won't go down that road right now. Point is stability. In order to achieve stability, $10 million per member is deposited into a reserve account. Now, they'll be drawing interest off of that money. It's not indicated what percentage of interest, but they will be drawing interest off of that $10 million. Each member will. But these are limited memberships. Again, the details are in the magazine, but they have to have certain requirements met in terms of their servers, their standby 24-hour, 24/7 engineer on site to troubleshoot and keep it up and running. They have to have a certain amount of throughput in the internet, all these things. So beyond the $10 million that they put in and earn interest from that, what other enticement is there for a business, a group, even a wealthy individual, plenty of billionaires in the world, to put $10 million in? And I've listed those players in the magazine. Well, think about the transactions. When you utilize a credit card, obviously there is a merchant fee, usually about 3% of the transaction, that's charged. Okay? So the merchant gets 3% of that transaction and pays MasterCard or Visa or whoever for that cost of that charged transaction to take place. That adds up very quickly. That's why there's MasterCard and Visa and American Express and all the others, because they make money off transactions. Well, the Libra Association members likewise are entitled to a transaction fee, but it is slated, it's advertised as being only micro fees, perhaps a penny, maybe a few pennies, but in the face of 3 to 5% in the past, it's nothing. It's virtually goes unnoticed by the holder of that Libra coin. So if you use a Libra coin as our ridiculous example, you go into McDonald's and you're using a Libra coin to buy your meal, a Happy Meal for your kid or whatever, there's a transaction fee. Let's say it's a penny for that $10 Libra transaction. 1 penny. You don't care. It's basically worthless. But that penny goes to what is called a node holder. Each Libra Association member is a node. Now, you've heard me use this word before. In the Sentient World Simulation, the SWS, in which every person on the planet has been since 2017 when it went live. Is it 20? No, 2007. Excuse me. 2007 when it went live. Every person on the planet is represented as a software computer node and given an avatar. Well, same thing in the Libra. The members of the association, 28 initially, going up perhaps as high as 100. I think they're going to cap it at 100. Each of those members is one node. And their function is to verify the transaction. There's a vetting process. Now, appreciate this is done at 1,000 transactions per second. It's all handled by software. But the verification of the transaction is the function of the node. So, for the cost of performing the function of verification, the holder of the node, the member of the Libra Association, receives, we're using in this example, 1 cent. Now, you've already run well ahead of me. I'm just laying it out, but you're already way ahead of me. Multiply that by potentially, because that's the goal, is to connect every person on the planet. Right now there are about 1.7 billion with a B, 1.7 billion people on the planet who are not connected to the internet. And I said in the last live stream, Google wants to give away Google phones for free so that people will be connected to the internet, because they want more advertising revenue. They want more people participating in the system. Well, that 1.7 billion added to, so now we're over 7 billion people on the planet, all using Libra, and every transaction, for the sake of simplicity, generates 1 penny as a charge, transaction fee. The numbers are just staggering. This is changing the paradigm for the MasterCards, the Visas, the PayPals, whom I presented in the last live stream. You've read on your own since then that PayPal, Visa, and MasterCard, and JP Morgan, the private banking sector, JP Morgan, backed out of Libra. And I explained why, and that was because their shareholders were not educated on what I'm sharing with you right now. All they knew was the previous paradigm, which was volatility of cryptocurrencies, speculation. And they also saw what I just said, the cutting out, virtually cutting out all of the transaction fees. More specifically, reducing it to our example of a penny per transaction. It'll be different transaction fee levels, but we'll just keep it simple. So do you think MasterCard, Visa, and PayPal are going to come back to the table? Do you think they're going to be members, founding members of the Libra Association? Absolutely they will. But first they have to calm the fears of their stakeholders, their shareholders, by educating them. Maybe they should listen to this live stream. They would get a very quick education. But I don't think MasterCard, Visa, and PayPal want people that are holding stocks in those organizations to listen to me, for obvious reasons. You see the smirk on my face. Paradigm change for those organizations. They don't want to be cut out. They want to be part of the deal. They want to be in on the action. They want to be at that roulette table. Okay? $10 million is nothing for those organizations to put down on black or red on the roulette wheel. Because they're not gambling. There's no speculation. It's all upside. There's no downside. The house is not going to win because they are buying into the house. Imagine going to Las Vegas and going to the owners of a casino and saying, I have $10 million. I want to buy into the house. I want some shares in order to be a part owner in this casino. They'd throw you out. They don't care about $10 million. They'll tell you to go take a hike. Because the house always wins. The house makes the majority of the profit. So they're being allowed to buy in. All of this nonsense in the media about, oh, PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, JP Morgan Private Bank, all bailed out. It's a house of cards. Libra's falling apart. It'll never happen. Mark Zuckerberg's going to be bankrupt. Forget about it. It's as bad as the stuff that you hear going on in Washington, just like Zuckerberg appearing before the House of Representatives. It's all theater. As Shakespeare said, the world is a stage. And we are but players, perhaps bit players, quantum bit players on the stage. So, it's all window dressing. I've been using that phrase in the last couple of live streams. All this stuff that you're hearing and seeing in mainstream media, and even on YouTube land, people saying, Libra coin's nothing because Uber's out, or because PayPal's out and the others. They don't know what they're talking about. Because they don't understand the construct. They don't understand the nuts and bolts about how Libra is put together and how it's going to operate. That's what I'm sharing with you in the magazine. Again, not in huge details, not a whole lot of pages this time, just very simple first blush. If need be, if requested, if there's enough desire, I'll do something in the December magazine in terms of the real nitty-gritty nuts and bolts about the software, which is called Move. They have their own software, M-O-V-E, Move. Okay? And the system of wallets, of which Facebook has announced their wallet, is called Calibra, C-A-L-I-B-R-A, Calibra. That is their wallet. Okay, so that's where your transactions take place. So if you guys want a lot of depth, like I've done in other issues of the magazine, on this topic, let me know through emails, and I will devote at least a portion, because I don't know what's going to be going on in December as far as the major topic, but at least a portion I can cover, I can devote to Libra in the December issue on those real nitty-gritty issues. I'm just giving you the introduction in a couple of live streams and in this November issue. For new people, it will be out. It will be published on the 1st of November. Okay, so we have the new players, we have the Libra Association members paying in $10 million. They'll earn interest on their $10 million, and they get a slice of the transaction fees. Now, there will be capital overhead, there will be operating costs. So before they get paid even their interest on their $10 million, before they get their slice of the house's take, to use our gambling analogy, the house's take, the costs have to be covered. So they're getting the net, not the gross. They're getting the net proceeds. But it still amounts to trillions of dollars every day. We're talking about not the gross national product of a sovereign nation. We're talking about the gross worldwide global product that the house is profiting off of. And they're getting the net after costs. And you know how technology is advancing, in computers especially. And the ability to drive down the cost of computing, just like Moore's law is now obsolete, we now have Nevin's law, in which the discussion of quantum supremacy by Google, okay, that was the October issue of Entangled magazine, thoroughly explained all of that for you. But having the ability now with Nevin's law, and I don't really like that, but it's the doubling of the exponential, the doubling of the doubling effect that they experienced with their, and continue to, with their Sycamore quantum computing chip. What it does is it illustrates the speed up that can be achieved in quantum computing. Right now, all of the blockchains are operated by classical computers. With the B system, with the mark of the B system, quantum computing will be the sole. Okay, if you guys are taking notes, here's another underline for you. Quantum computing will be the sole computing system for the B system in its entirety, and specifically for Libra. You will not find this in any literature, white papers, articles, or anything that Libra will be run by quantum computers. Yes, the daily transactions will happen on the classical level, because that's what people use. That's what the CPUs, okay, computer processing units that use graphical processing units for the classical level artificial intelligence. Yes, AI plays a significant role in this. But here's the specific point. This is where I can say, even though it's not in the literature, I can say that quantum computers will be at the heart of the Libra, but also all of the B system, the entire B system. But we're focused on Libra, the cryptocurrency. That will be driven by quantum computing. Now, why can I say that without giving you a link to cite to a source? I've given you the answer before. I hope I'm not coming across as being arrogant. We're just teaching here, okay? Think back to encryption. We have cryptocurrencies. You know, at the heart of cryptocurrencies is encryption. The data, the transactions, the ledgers, the distributed ledgers, which is blockchain, is fully encrypted using RSA encryption. That's based on Shor's algorithms 2048 and 4096, which you know that I have explained and demonstrated and shown you the proof D-Wave in particular, D-Wave systems with their quantum computers, their quantum annealing process of their adiabatic quantum computers, essentially cracked the RSA system. Okay? So you can read through the magazine. I don't want to get too far diverted on that tangent. But because all cryptocurrencies today, and including Libra, and to a greater extent Libra, because of quantum encryption, not classical encryption, but a private key. Again, this is in the magazine. A private key which is used to encrypt information and then decode it. Sometimes a private, sometimes a public key will be used depending on who it's being distributed to, who the message is being sent to. But here's, to keep it simple, keep it focused. Libra transactions will be encrypted by quantum computing. The transactions will take place classically. Quantum computers still have to have an interface at a classical level, because that's where humans can interact with it, is at the classical level. This is why third-party developers like Palantir and others have been developing third-party programs that basically interface through the cloud, interface a classical computer to a quantum computer and back to the classical. Okay? So people will be using classical computers for Libra. But the encryption takes place by way of quantum computing. And that's the heart of the global currency system, is the encryption. Now, many articles talk about encryption of private information, of private data, in the discussion of blockchain, of distributed ledgers. And they describe blockchain as decentralized, because all the transactions that are recorded on individual ledgers, those are duplications of the same transaction, thousands of times, are then distributed throughout the blockchain. So if any one particular ledger or group of ledgers are hacked, or an attempt to hack takes place to destroy a record or disrupt a record, there are literally thousands of duplicates distributed throughout the system. Therefore, the integrity of that privacy, of that encryption, is maintained. So they call it decentralized. But as I've said to you many, many times, at least for over a year now, probably more, I've said that it's actually centralized, because the central definition of centralized lies with who holds the public key that first encrypted the information, that encrypted the transaction. Who holds the key? That, by definition, it can be one person, it can be a group, it can be an organization, it can be one computer network, or one single computer. That would be ridiculous, but one computer network. The point is, there is a central location in which the private key for encryption is stored and then used for decrypting. That is centralization. This is, again, what you will never see and never hear about, because the song and dance, the used car salesman pitch to get everybody on board is decentralization, because then they think it's all safe. It's not safe. Ultimately, who's going to hold the key? Who's going to hold the ultimate private key to the global currency system? You guys are already way ahead of me again. It's the Antichrist. We as Christians know this. The rest of the world doesn't. They don't want to see it. Who's going to hold the key? So again, we go to examining Scripture, going deeper, going to the multiple layers, the multiple meanings, the multiple ways of understanding Scripture. Go to Revelation 9. The angels cast from heaven, given the key to the bottomless pit, to the abyss. Now, we've related that abyss, the definition of the abyss, to many other applications, and I won't go into those, but let's take it to a new application of the abyss, of the definition. We always drill down, we always get in and define things. So here we want to define the abyss in the context of discussing the blockchain and Libra as the global currency. The key to the abyss itself, again, multiple layers. The abyss, now I'm applying blockchain as definition. Because by its construct, by its nature, by the way it operates, it continues to spread and off into essentially affinity. When we talked about Google's Sycamore quantum processing chip and that it was doing the doubling of the doubling, it was producing integers in an endless, infinite stream. And I said that's a mathematical model of the abyss. Another example, another interpretation of Scripture, another layer, another going deeper. Okay? So that's a mathematical model of the abyss. Well, just like that endless string in the doubling of integers beyond the decimal point by the Sycamore quantum supremacy Google quantum computer, of which it had between 54 and 56 qubits in the Sycamore chip, we now have another way of applying the word abyss to the ever-spreading, because of the continual intake of data from around the world that is encrypted into the distributed ledger system. It's just like the Kabbalist tree of life. It is the root system below. When you look at the tree of life, the Kabbalist tree of life, you have the 10 sephirots above, okay, and the Keter at the top, the crown. But below, because it's as above, so below, the below is the root system. And the root system, as you know, with any tree, any plant, is going to continue to spread and spread and spread as long as it's alive. That root system is analogous to the blockchain system. And when we look at a complex root system, you pull weeds out of your garden. You just look at the myriad of branching that's going on. It's like the dendrites in the human brain. The branching, the complexity. It looks infinite in its complexity. Blockchain looks infinite in its growing complexity because there's a near, if you will, infinite amount of data coming in from the world into the blockchain, forming the one world system. The beast system. So you have an infinite amount of data coming in, that's an abyss, and you have a blockchain system like a root system that is proliferating seemingly on an infinite scale, that's an abyss. And the key is the private key of encryption. And that key is provided through quantum computing, the highest level of encryption that man can produce to access that infinite abyss that he's creating. And he's creating it for the father of lies. This is straight out of the pit of hell, the abyss of hell. Satan has been transmitting this information to humans for hundreds of years. And now the technology, since 1840 with the Kabbalists pushing it in the infiltration, indoctrination, manipulation of science and technology and academia, it's exploded. The advancements in technology since 1840 are just practically infinite. The source of all of this is coming from Satan. Because Satan is putting in place, he's pre-placing the technologies for the time when he is trapped here on this earth, and he has nothing but his technology to operate with. And this is why he wants to entrap humans in his beast system with his mark, because it's his system. He's trapped and he wants to trap humans in it. He hates us. He hates God's creation. Okay? So, let me go to a picture in my folder. I'm going to read to you. Better yet, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go right into the magazine. I want to read from the magazine a list of organizations. This is from Concordia, and Concordia, in the magazine, again, give you the background, and I sent you the links on for their website. But this is Concordia's Leadership Council. Okay, this is not Libra. This is not the founding members of Libra. I'm stepping over to a new group now. Concordia's Leadership Council. The reason I'm going to read not the names of the people, but the names of these organizations and countries is to give you a sense of the scale at which Libra, which is a product of Concordia, okay? Libra is a product of Concordia. It comes out of the Libra group, which formed Concordia. The Libra group was founded by the Logothetis family. Michael specifically, but behind the scenes, his brother George Logothetis. Okay? They formed the Libra group in 2003. Originally, it was called Lomar Shipping. In 1967, the Logothetis family, and in 2003, it became the Libra group, and from the Libra group came the Libra Association for the Libra cryptocurrency. And now I want to talk a little bit about Concordia, an organization that the Logothetis family founded. So listen to the names of these organizations and countries. Some of these you may not know. But that's okay. We're just going to look at the number of these right now. Miller Center, the country of Colombia, Spain, the Prime Minister of Spain, the Cherry Blair Foundation, UNESCO, Eurasia Group, Mexico, Costa Rica, Northern Ireland, Slovakia, Latvia, J.P. Morgan Chase International, Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, the Governor of New Jersey, the Coca-Cola Company, Calamos Investments, the President of Poland, President of Uruguay, Prime Minister Thailand, CEO Dow Chemical Company, Konstantin Logothetis, the ex-executive vice chairman of the Libra Group, George Logothetis, chairman and CEO of the Libra Group. Okay, these are all members of the Leadership Council at Concordia. I'm continuing. Telecom SA, South America, SOC Limited, George W. Bush, as in the president, and Laura Bush, Save the Children, George Mitchell, Senate Majority Leader, John Negroponte, former Deputy Secretary of State and U.S. Director of National Intelligence, CEO of AmeriCares, President Miami-Dade College, Governor of New York, Director of Central Intelligence Agency, former, that was David Petraeus, he's still in there, President of Chile, President of Bolivia, Prime Minister of Australia, Chairman of GSP Group, Francis Townsend, former Homeland Security Advisor to the President of the United States and Senior National Security Analyst at CBS News, President of Colombia, Chairman CEO of Avis. Okay? So that's all in Concordia.net. Go to Leadership Council, you'll see all of that. It begs the question, how did the Logothetis family manage to pull all these together? And there are more, okay? There are more that participate beyond just the Leadership Council. More countries, more companies, more government officials. That's just the Leadership Council, okay? It begs the question, how did the Logothetis family, and in particular, because I'm highlighting in the magazine, George Logothetis. Where's the pull? As in the vernacular of the analogy I used with the casinos and the people who are loan sharks with exorbitant interest rates. Where's the VIG? Where's the VIG in all this for all these organizations and people and politicians and business leaders and bankers? Where's the enticement? Where's the VIG? Well, I already explained to you the VIG for people, organizations like MasterCard and Visa and PayPal and JP Morgan, their private bank. It's in the transactions, baby. It's in the transactions. Yeah, we'll get some interest on our $10 million, but we don't really care about that. It's in the transaction fees. There's the VIG. And I think that's an appropriate term to use in this discussion. So let me read another list, and this is from Libra itself, Libra cryptocurrency. This is the initial 28 founding members of the Libra Association. In the category of payments, it kind of sounds like I'm doing Academy Awards here. In the category of payments, the winners are MasterCard, PayPal, PayU, which is NASPER's financial tech arm, Stripe, and Visa. While in the technology and marketplace sectors, we have Booking Holdings, eBay, Facebook Calibra, Farfetch, Lyft, Mercado Pago, Spotify AB, and Uber Technologies Incorporated. And in the telecommunications sector, we have Iliad and Vodafone Group. In the blockchain sector, not to be left out and left in the cold, we have Anchorage, Bison Trails, Coinbase Incorporated, Zappo Holdings Limited. Now in the venture capital arena, venture capital category of awards, Andreessen Horowitz, Breakthrough Initiatives, Rabbit Capital, Thrive Capital, and Union Square Ventures. And in the final category for tonight's awards, we have nonprofit and multilateral organizations and academic institutions, such as Creative Destruction Lab. That's a great name. Creative Destruction Lab. I like to see their flag. Kiva, Mercy Corps, and Women's World Banking. All of this is in the magazine. I wanted to leave some time for questions tonight. I haven't forgotten about that. I'm running over my first hour that I said I was going to. I'm going to go ahead and tie this up if I can. I want to leave you guys opportunity to ask questions. But even with these broad strokes that I've painted this rudimentary picture for you, even with the first grouping of jigsaw puzzle pieces interconnecting now, and we at 40,000 feet on patch air, we're seeing the picture coalesce, the picture come together. We don't see through the glass dimly anymore, do we? We don't have scales over our eyes. We know the beast system when we see it. We see the mark of the beast on the horizon coming. We can see the abyss opening up. And we know who the holder of the key to the bottomless pit is. And we know what that bottomless pit is in its many forms. It's our job to pass this information on. It's our commandment as watchmen on the wall. It's our commandment to warn. Pass the information along, as I know you already do. In your own ways, your own way of pulling all this together. If you want to refer people to these live streams, please do. Especially people that are already in cryptocurrencies that you may know of. You talk about sounding the trumpet, the clarion call from the watchtower. I am blowing the trumpet. Okay? There's much more in the magazine. Again, it's not going to be a long magazine this time. I'm trying to keep this as something that is easy to digest. But the impact should not be lost in the brevity of the magazine. As I began to dig into Libra and Concordia, there was one other organization that I wanted to share with you, and I'm not going to take time to do it here. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, because I want to, as I said, give you time for questions. But I sent you the link, and it is from Concordia. This is Concordia and the Global Blockchain Business Council. This is Blockchain Central. Concordia puts on an annual summit every year since 2011 in New York City, coinciding with the UN General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly, when they get together. The same exact time in New York, Concordia's summit is being held, because the players move from venue to venue, from the UN to Concordia and back and forth. Okay, that's why they happen concurrently. It's by design. But I fully expect Concordia to displace the United Nations. Fully expect it. So within the summit, they hold what is known as Blockchain Central. These are gatherings. These are sessions. These are breakout sessions and main room sessions. Blockchain Central is a place where the networking takes place of the movers and the shakers. And I'll elaborate on this more tomorrow. Okay? But from Concordia, they have joined forces with Global Blockchain Business Council. Again, a red flag, again, obvious indicator, Libra, from the Libra Association, the Libra Group, the Logothetis family from Concordia that they founded, and their own Libra Group, founding the Libra Association, resulting in the Libra cryptocurrency, and the blockchain system that runs Libra. This Global Blockchain Business Council is where the selling of Libra to the business community is taking place. And they are running lock, stock, and barrel headlong right after it, because they know, as a business person, as a business group, as a business unit, as a business sector, failure to participate in the blockchain results in your bankruptcy. Plain and simple. Now, I promised I would wrap this up, but there's something else that I ask in the magazine that I'm going to just end on this question for you to examine on your own. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, is the Facebook face of Libra. The average Joe Bag of Donuts walking down the street may have heard of Facebook having its own cryptocurrency. Some astute one walking down the street may have heard of this in passing. Something floating in the ether out there. Oh, Facebook has a coin. Facebook has a cryptocurrency. And somebody else might hear, oh, Libra. Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. That's Facebook's new cryptocurrency. Oh, yeah, it's not Facebook's. Facebook is one of the 28 founding members of the Libra Association. They ponied up $10 million. They get one vote. Facebook is one vote, one node, one verifier. They're one player, of which there may be as many as 100 as things progress, each putting in $10 million. This is not, despite what Congress thinks and wants to say, despite what the mainstream media and people on YouTube land want to say, Libra is not Facebook's cryptocurrency. But why? So there's really two questions. Why is Facebook being labeled as such? Why is Libra being labeled as such is a better way to turn it around. Because Facebook has all those users. They have over 1 billion users. They have hundreds of thousands of advertisers, hundreds of thousands of merchants. Okay? Hundreds and hundreds of thousands in Facebook. And you're probably already aware of these numbers, but it's astounding when you paint the picture, you look at the context of what we're talking about. Why is Facebook being labeled as the primary in the discussion of Libra, cryptocurrency? Because they're a big player. But, you know, there are a lot of big players I just read to you. There's countries and corporations that are on the Leadership Council and in the founding members. Can you get any bigger than MasterCard, Visa, PayPal? Well, Facebook is bigger. So they get to have the moniker that the average Joe Bag of Donuts associates Libra with Facebook. And that's why Zuckerberg is the face of Libra, not George Logothetis, standing before the U.S. House of Representatives. Why aren't these players that I've been listing to you, and there's many, many more, why don't they put a representative up there? One little guy, little old poor little Marky. I don't care if he's a billionaire. He's still a little boy. Little boy Marky Z, sitting there quivering before Congress. Well, the congressmen and women, they have no clue. They don't know what you know now about Libra. They're clueless. You know what they focused on? And you already know this. They focused on privacy of information. Because the lingering black cloud over Facebook is Cambridge Analytica. So Maxine Waters, you know, she's out there just, you know, hammering away at poor little Marky, who's probably wearing Depends to the hearing. Because old Maxine can be pretty tough. Reminds me of some ladies I used to interface with in Oakland, California, in my days as a paramedic. She's a tough lady. I bet he had his Depends on. But she was focused on, and many others were focused on, the privacy concerns. And that's okay. But remember, I told you at the beginning, the privacy concerns were dealt with by Facebook within 30 days, as I had prognosticated, if you will. I mean, it wasn't a hard thing to expect, but they moved the private information of Facebook users into a blockchain environment. Okay? Well, Libra's blockchain. It's part of the blockchain environment. So it's much ado about nothing. Again, to quote Shakespeare, much ado about nothing. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all theater. It's all bread and circus. If you want to know the real scoop, you come here, and you know that. Please tell other people to come here so that they know, so that they are warned. This is serious stuff. Yeah, I'm playing around a little bit, but this is serious stuff. This needs to get out. George Logothetis, Concordia, Libra Group, Libra Association. Okay? The GBBC, the Global Blockchain Business Council. Look at that link. Look at that website. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But I said there were 2 questions, so the last question I'm going to leave on, and I'll leave time for questions now from you. We're talking about Facebook. Why aren't we talking about Google and Amazon? Do you think Google wants to set up shop and buy and sell merchandise and goods and services online, like Amazon? Sure, they're already doing it. Do you think Amazon is buying and selling online? Well, of course. Their model that I presented to you years ago, as stated by Jeff Bezos in 1999, is that we want to sell you everything. Bezos wants everything that is sold on this planet running through Amazon. That's his business model. He said it publicly. So where are they with their cryptocurrency? I don't see a Google coin. I don't see a Facebook coin. Do you? You see my smirk. They have a choice. Either they can mint their own cryptocurrency, which I seriously doubt they're going to do. Otherwise, they would have done it already. Because if they try to, they're a little late coming to the game, a little late coming to the party, a little late sauntering up to the roulette table at the casino. The betting has closed. You don't get to bet on black and you don't get to bet on red. The betting has closed because the wheel, the roulette wheel, is already spinning. So you don't get to place a bet on the table. So what will Google and Amazon do? And others like them? Remember who created Facebook, Google, Amazon, Spotify, Instagram, all the way down the line. Who created these? The U.S. intelligence community. Nothing new to you. So they determined, the intelligence community determined, and the players that are behind them, of course. And again, I'm not trying to be abusive. I'm not trying to be rude here. But I've already given you enough information. I'm asking you to put on your critical thinking caps. I've given you enough information as to who is behind Libra. Therefore, who is behind the intelligence community? Who's determined for the intelligence community, who then conveyed the message, who determined that it was going to be Facebook rather than Google or Amazon to be first to the roulette table with their bet in the form of their own cryptocurrency? The answer lies in the name Libra. That's why Facebook. Yes, they have all the users, well over 1 billion. They have all of the advertisers and the merchants into the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands. So it's an obvious. But is Google big? Is Amazon big? The answer also is they will join, as did MasterCard, Visa, and PayPal, who are coming back to the roulette table. Okay, they left the casino, had to go out in the street and calm down their stakeholders. Now they're coming back in off the street into the casino. You'll see it. Won't be long. But along with them is going to be Google and Amazon. It's going to come into Libra. Absolutely. There's no room for other cryptocurrencies. There's no time for another cryptocurrency. There can only be one global currency, and there's not enough time to fight that out. Excuse me. There's not enough time to fight that out. Can't be done. It's been fast-tracked. So I guess I have to ask yet a third question. Why haven't you heard of Concordia? They've been having their summits in New York City in concert with the United Nations General Assembly meeting. They just had one in September, late September this year in New York. Then they have regional summits in places like Bogota, Colombia, in Spain. Okay? They have their regional summits too, and then they get together for an annual summit in New York every year. Why haven't we heard about it? Why don't you see people on YouTube land running around screaming and yelling, Concordia, Concordia, the sky is falling? Why don't you see Alex Jones running around with his bullhorn like he does with Bilderberg? Concordia! Outside their summit in New York. Never heard from him. Never saw him. This is it, folks. And there's one question I'm not going to ask because you've already asked it yourself and you've already answered it for yourself. So I'm not even going to go there. And again, I'm not trying to be rude. There's a piece, there's a discussion that I have not presented, and it's not in the magazine either. It's a conclusion that you have already reached. And you can share it with me through email if you want. Okay? But now it's time for your questions. So let me go to the chat room. And if my wife in the chat room will help facilitate some of this. All right. So go ahead and post your questions. I'll scroll up in chat a little bit and see if maybe you already put a couple in here. Okay. Mr. Wilson, excellent question. Okay, it's in the magazine, but is Libra a fiat currency? Do they have gold? Excellent. Okay, we talked about stability a little bit. Stability in the sense that there is a fixed value determined by the Libra Association and the founding members, specifically set by the founding members of Libra. Okay? It'll be tied to the still worldwide, except for maybe Russia, accepted reserve currency of the dollar. They'll tie it to the dollar. So far is what I'm reading. It will be backed by the 10 million per member call it their membership fee, that goes into the Libra Reserve Fund. That's the first step for stability. Next, it will be tied to short-term government guarantees that are tied to a basket of local sovereign currencies like the pound, the yuan, the yen, the euro. Okay? So there will be a basket of currencies. And the reason it's called a basket is they will put currencies that have fluctuating values in the currency market. And they'll take the average value of each individual currency and take those averages and put them together to form one average value. That's a basket of currencies. It's very common. Okay? So in order to guarantee the value, that stabilized value in the basket of currencies, governments will put up short-term guarantees, typically bonds in this country. They'll put up a bond guarantee. Okay? That's to stabilize the fluctuations of currencies, and that's a very common, as I just said, very common practice in the currency markets. And individual countries will do that. So a combination of government securities and a initial valuation of the membership fees, and that will grow to as many as 100 members. It will not be based on gold or silver. There will be no metals, golds, silver, platinum, rare precious metals such as what China is holding right now. It's absolutely necessary in the high-tech sector. None of those are going to be traded. They will not be, I shouldn't say they won't be traded. They won't be part of the Libra reserve. And it's this reserve fund made up of these components that will enable Libra to be a stable, for the first time in the world of cryptocurrencies, which are by definition fiat currencies. They're made up out of nothing. They have no standard that they stand on. They have no reserve fund. They have no commodities. They have no basket of currencies to stand on. Therefore, by definition, they're fiat. This will be the first non-fiat, but I am going to couch that definition and say it is still fiat. Because the $10 million that's put in, that's a fiat currency because the United States operates in a deficit spending mode. We're not on the profit side of the ledger. Okay? We're in the red. We're not in the black on the ledger in the United States. So by definition, the US dollar is fiat. That's going into the reserve fund. The other currencies of the world likewise are fiat. And even if they're, quote, guaranteed by short-term government guarantees, loans, bonds, the governments themselves are all deficit spending governments. The entire world economy, therefore, is fiat. Therefore, Libra is a fiat cryptocurrency. They will promote it as not being fiat because of what I just said about the reserve fund leading to the supposed stability, but I'm here to tell you it's fiat as any other system. Okay? But it is the one world global currency system. Okay? All right. All right, so great question, Mr. Wilson. Let me scroll down. Susan W. Regarding George, let's do that by email. I am reserving, to use the word of the day, I am reserving conversation on him to private emails. Okay? So feel free to contact me. You use my contact tab at anthonypatch.com or go to anthonypatchauthor@gmail.com or post in Patreon. Go ahead and post a message in Patreon. That automatically populates an email alert to my email inbox that you have posted in Patreon. Feel free to converse with me in Patreon as well. Okay? All righty. All right. Good, Andy. Excellent. Yep. Good that you're talking to your brother. I see what you say in here. All right. Andy's question. I'm looking for it. Where is it? Will you be able to buy gold and silver with Libra cryptocurrency? If the merchants are willing to take Libra for your gold and silver, yes. Yeah, I saw it. I got it. Sure, it's just like any other merchant buying and selling goods and services. Sure, they'll take Libra for gold and silver. Sure, I wouldn't buy gold and silver. If I was cashing out Libra, I'd buy food. I didn't say this earlier, but I'll just say it. Your brother, Andy, and people like him that have cryptocurrencies, and I advised to convert to dollars or your local currency, take that currency and buy food. Okay? Buy food. Sherry, question, what do you think about having gold and silver on hand prior to refusing to operate in the Libra system? I think I just answered that, Sherry. Good question. Not trying to be flippant, not stepping on toes. Convert your gold and silver into food. Long-term food storage. Okay? Scripture tells us they'll be casting their gold in the streets. It'll be worthless. So while you can, convert it to long-term food storage. Okay. No problem, Sherry. We're good. We're good. Will they crash the economy and dollar to launch Libra? Mr. Wilson's asking. All right. Good. You told him to learn about bartering. Absolutely, my wife says. Yep. Bartering and food. That's where you want to be. All right. Will they crash the economy and dollar to launch Libra? Mr. Wilson is asking. Their stated goal in the Facebook white paper, which is at this point providing the bulk of the details about Libra, but there are other sources that I've provided to you that talk about Libra. The stated goal is in sometime in the first half of next year, 2020, they want to launch Libra. But also remember, I said that they need to go through the teething stage. They need to work out the bugs in the system, and they need to do the marketing and advertising to get enough individuals willing to participate in it, as well as the business sector willing to participate in the system. And all of that rollout, all of that education, marketing and advertising, encouragement, inducements, enticements, all of the typical things that happen in a capitalistic structure have to take place, have to roll out. There has to be enough time for that rollout. Okay? But there will be, as I like to say, there will be a flipping of the switch. In 1 hour, they say, peace and safety, but in 1 hour comes sudden destruction. I take that as flipping the switch. So there will be something that will be World War III, and it'll crash the economy. Or there will be some sort of major significant financial event, and they'll crash the economy. You're exactly right, Mr. Wilson. There will be a crashing of the worldwide economy. And there will be the presentation as a solution. Remember, problem, reaction, solution. The solution for the economies being crashed is Libra. Who presents the solution? The Antichrist. And the Antichrist being revealed is at a time of sudden destruction and the aftermath. Does that mean it's going to happen next year or a year later? We have to follow, and I will update you as best I can, follow the progress of Libra. That's our barometer. That's our litmus paper. The development, the rollout, the selling, the marketing, the advertising, the involvement by numbers in Libra. Those are the telltale signs that we will watch, the development of all of this associated with Libra. So we'll watch for the number of businesses that become founding members. We'll see the Google and the Amazon come in, but we'll see the businesses come in. We'll see the business sector, because the business sector doesn't want to be left behind because they're greedy. They're driven by greed. And they don't want to be left out of the blockchain system, so they don't want to file bankruptcy. So they have to be the early adopters. The real early adopters of the founding members. But behind them, the business sector, again, I've got this Global Blockchain Business Council. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Early adopters are the merchants. And they have their unbalanced scales, their inaccurate scales. The merchant loves to cheat, right? From Hosea. They'll swoop in. So we've got to watch them. And behind them will be the tsunami of the individual people who want to participate. As we see that crescendo building of both the merchants and the average Joe Bag of Donuts, as we see the crescendo building, those are the rising of the barometer, the thermometer, the litmus paper changing color, okay? Testing the pH. We know how prepared the Libra system is for the flipping of the switch. And that'll be an indicator as to when they're going to collapse the economies. The further along Libra develops, the closer we get to the collapse of the worldwide economies. Because there has to be a swap out. You have to destroy one system to replace it with another. Problem, reaction, solution. The worsening economies is the problem that people react to. And the solution will be handed to them in the form of Libra. That's why it's the beast system. Okay? And that's the MO of it. Okay. What is the reason for choosing the black horse, etc. on the coin? I think you said it already, asked Deborah. Yeah. Well, the black horse, the rider on the black horse holds the scales, right? And again, in the magazine, I explain more of this, but you work for a day, and a day's wages is placed on the scale. And on the scale is a very precise amount of food. Typically, scales are not used for food Because food, when it's plentiful, you just go by a best guess as to its weight and volume. I'm talking about in the old days, wheat and barley and bread and things like that. You didn't have to get down to the finer points of an ounce. But when you're talking about famine, and food is extremely scarce and therefore valuable, supply and demand, food is placed on the balance scale, and it is very carefully weighed against a day's wages. That's why the writer holds the scales. It's not the scales of justice, it's the scales of famine. And the skeleton, the famished rider rides the black horse. That's why I chose that for the coin. Okay? Alrighty. All right. Any other questions? Kathleen, John Panette in his toilet paper routine, she puts a link in the chat room. John Panette is probably, is one of two comedians that we absolutely really enjoy. Poor John Panette, he's now deceased, but love his stuff, absolutely brilliant. And Brian Regan is the other guy that we really appreciate. Brian Regan, and there are a lot of little phrases that he and Panette use all the time in their routines that we repeat to each other. It's about the closest I can get to being humorous, is quoting somebody else. Okay? All right. All righty. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the very nice comments in the chat room. Thank you, Armac. I appreciate it. Okay. Well, let's wrap it up. Again, no fear about any of this. Just reach out to other people so they're not fearful. And, you know, there are a lot of paradigms that are going to be suddenly changed, and that's where, you know, the men, their hearts fail for what they behold coming upon them because of the system that they've created. And all of a sudden they realize the whole paradigm has switched over. Lo and woe to those that take the mark of the beast. It's very sad. But we are to be filled with joy, knowing that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is about to return. Okay? We just need to help other people come to an understanding of that and come to a relationship with Jesus Christ and to experience that reassurance that you and I experience through the Holy Spirit. Kathleen and I present an awful lot of very disturbing information, but it isn't meant to cause fear. These are just touch points along the path, that narrow path that we walk with Christ. These are touch points indicating that he is soon to return at that end of the pathway that we walk with him. Okay? It's sobering, but don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. I know we care an awful lot about other people, and especially our family and loved ones and people we work with and acquaintances. You know, we care about other people. We have a heart for other people. That's part of having been transformed through the blood of Jesus Christ. Yeah, we can get frustrated with people, and I do. I get frustrated with people. But really, when you examine yourself, when you're really introspective and you examine yourself, you know that you could have been one of those people that maybe you're upset with. Perhaps even judge. You know you could be one of those people. And you know you struggle, and I do, speaking for myself, struggle not to be one of those people. These are our fellow human beings. It's just this little blue marble spinning through space. This is all we got, folks. We've got to take care of each other, but not in the system that is outside of God, not in the system that Satan is creating. This whole thing of coexist and, this collaboration and, the whole concept of inclusiveness and the sustainability agenda, and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. It's all false. It's all phony because it stands outside of God's plan. It stands outside of God. Okay? All right. Okay. God bless you all. Lord willing, we'll get back together tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will talk about, I always have to look at it, Global Blockchain Business Council. We'll talk about that and probably a lot more. So, good night, and thank you for your friendship and fellowship.